Hello, welcome. My name is Jenny Q. I'm excited to be here with Rev Misty today. Today we're going to talk about why are we afraid of death? How do we handle grief? How does helping a dying person change your life? These are the things we need to know, but we don't know we need to know them until we're in that moment. And that's why I'm so grateful and so honored to be here with you, Rev Misty.
Woo.
Rev Misty, you are a certified death doula. Am I even saying that right?
You are saying that absolutely correct.
Okay, perfect. Tell us what that is. What is a certified death doula?
Well, first of all, I want to say hi to everyone. And I'm so excited. Thanks for hanging in there after our little technical stuff last week. But we've got it down. And I could not be more happy to be here to talk about this very important subject near and dear to my heart. So first of all, a certified death doula is a coach for the dying. A lot of people have heard about doulas in regards to birth, a birth doula, right? I think those came around in the late 60s and 70s and are still to this day a great help. So a death doula is the same thing, but instead of coming into the world, you're leaving the world.
So beautiful. You know, I didn't even know it was a thing, but when my mother passed away in 2006, I remember feeling so, and I don't use this word lightly, I felt so traumatized because I didn't know what to expect. And
Right.
I remember pulling the hospice caregivers, and I just kept pulling them out in the hallway. Please explain to me what's going on. I don't know what this is, you know? And I thought, why in our society are we so prepared for birth? Like, I don't know anybody who doesn't know about, Lamaze, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
and so I just thought, I don't know how, but someday I want to help people with this. And then you posted something a few weeks ago, International Death Doula Day. And I said, Misty, let's do a show. Let's do a show about this. Let's open the conversation. So thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me talk about it. And that is what's wrong with our society. So if you think about when a baby is born, the excitement about what's coming and all of that, well, unfortunately, death is a bit of an unknown. We know what happens as you die, but there's that big question, depends on your faith base, but like what's happening. And we have, ever since World War I, shunned people away from being around the death conversation. So I know it's really interesting. So let's go way back to like the 1800s. There were farms and people had cows and, there was a lot more rural, less city, and there was a lot more disease. Like people died of pneumonia where they don't do that now. So first of all, we live longer, so we don't see death as much. Second, we don't, even as children, unless you grow up on a farm, understand kind of that whole cycle, what really happens. And after World War I, all the boys that were coming home, there actually needed a way to get them home and have burial. And that's when embalming was invented. And that's also when funeral homes really took off. So no longer was your uncle in the parlor, which is the living room, and people had a wake within a day or two. And they all gathered together and they supported each other. So things happen very different now. So first of all, death for a long time still happens in a hospital. And hospice came around in the 70s with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, near and dear to my heart. She's an amazing woman. And she started hospice, dying at home, and bringing back the families. But the problem is there's still that big gap of explaining to families, because usually it's crisis moment. And I don't know about you, but I know when I'm in a crisis, I don't hear very well. And so all the stuff that's coming at them, they don't absorb it. And it's definitely the shock mode. And so they don't take it all in. They need it explained many times in different ways. And also the person who's actually facing death has their own stuff to deal with. And the first phase is actually shock. And you really don't hear much in shock.
So am I understanding you right, that the person who is passing on actually is going through shock as well?
Yeah, the idea of hearing everything there. If I told you, Jenny Q, that tomorrow You have a terminal illness and you have less than 6 months to live.
Okay.
Your brain couldn't. It's just it's emotion. It's all of it, right? All of those things.
Right.
So that is a super important time to have conversations. And they've even shown that the best work done in a person's life can be in those moments, right? And if you are lucky enough to have that time, so there's a lot of people who pass for many different reasons, as we know, heart attacks, and that's quick accidents, that kind of thing. But if you do get a terminal illness, you do have time. But it isn't a pretty time. It is a difficult time. There's a lot of stuff that comes out at that time. Also, the physical body changes so much. And I'm guessing that when you're referring to your mom's situation, it was also the physical changes that was unexpected.
Absolutely. And, I told you I was going to get emotional on this, but I consider myself fortunate that I was having coffee the night before with my now husband, and we had just we hadn't really even started dating. We were friends, and I had gotten the call from the nursing home that day that things were not looking good, and so we had coffee, and he was just so right there for me when he said, "Have you ever been around someone who has passed?" And I said, no. He said, well, there are changes that go on with the body as the spirit's leaving the body. And if he had not clued me into that, I don't know how that experience would have been, because I had a tiny bit of preparation, Right. And so it was because I had that, I think, that I was able to even process it as I did. But, I really want to know, and I know that you're doing a more than a half-day seminar coming up on this. It's not something that we can actually cover in the short time we have here.
No, but I do want to express that usually hospice will give the family a booklet, and that will explain it. But if you have never seen it, it's like describing labor to a woman having a baby who's never had a baby, right? One of those things is really hard to describe. I was introduced to death early on in my career. I worked in pediatric oncology, and then I lost my father and my sister just 3 months apart. And I was there for both of them. And I will tell you that experience changed my life. Really, really, really did. And it also helped me be better in pediatric oncology, working with families and knowing that some of these children weren't going to make it. But ultimately, that experience, and I can see it on your face, I can. It's life-changing. And when we talk about death changing our lives, it's for the people who are left behind, right? So that work is just as important for the families and the people and the loved ones, because they're learning so much about life. Life is precious. Mm-hmm. Life is beautiful. And we always talk about being in the moment. Well, it's very hard to be in the moment when you're worrying about the dishes and the work and the laundry and the kids are screaming. But ultimately, it does shine a light about the importance of connection and the people you love, and to say what you need to say. And I do lead a lot of conversations about those important conversations. So I do want to introduce a quick study that I think is super important, unless somebody has a question or something.
Well, I do want to share this. Lynn Abate Johnson, who is a friend of mine watching from Southern California, her mother passed away just a couple of years ago. I don't even think it was 2 years ago. I wish I remembered, Lynn. Forgive me for not remembering. She said it's a roller coaster period of time, depending on how long the person lasts after a terminal diagnosis. And so and this is, Misty, another thing. You are a forgiveness expert. You literally wrote the book on forgiveness. You created a forgiveness algorithm. And I know that that's a lot of your work as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, for sure. But I just wanted to give a shout out. We have other viewers. I cannot see you to give you a shout out, if you even want a shout out. But if you want to leave a comment and just say hey or whatever, then we can say hi to you as well. But you're talking about connecting, and I do have very vivid memories of how, my siblings were all there, and Wow, that brought us so close together, right?
And it can bring people
Yeah.
very close together, but I also want to emphasize it can also bring people apart
Okay.
because everybody has a different view of how things should go, right? We all have
That
an
makes sense.
idea,
Yeah.
right? And some people don't have any experience with death like yourself, but your nature is a little different. There are other people that they have to leave. There's family members who said, just call me when the time is done. They didn't want to be in the room because of the fact that there's this fear that like they're going to see something they can't get out of their mind or something like that. But I want you to know with hospice, because of hospice, death can really be made beautiful, both for the person passing and the family. But it has to do with having those conversations ahead of time. I have a big news flash for you. You ready?
Ready.
There's 100% mortality rate. Just saying. We all are going to have to deal with this.
Right.
And some people deal with it much earlier in their life. They're children and they're teenagers, and they either have a friend pass, they have a parent pass. And I call that, if it's a parent, sibling, spouse, or child, it's a 1 degree. It's very different than having your grandmother that you love dearly, but unless she raised you, there's just that little bit of separation, you know?
Okay.
And there still can be really close relationships. But if it's a parent, a spouse, somebody that close in your life, it's a different situation. I had a conversation with someone recently that's the first time they're in their 50s and they have lost no one but a grandmother when they were 15, and they don't really can even remember that. So the grief and the experience of it's raw, it's intense, because they didn't know what was going to happen, just like you said. They also didn't expect this wave of debilitating grief. And I said, unfortunately, you just got your grief card. You are now in the club. And that club is a really, really hard thing to do. Now, when it comes to death doulas, they help out hospice, right? But they don't give meds, that kind of thing, like hospice will do, but they know all of the meds. They know all of the disease states that also look different at dying. A patient dying of COPD could be very different than a patient dying of prostate cancer. So they look different, and your body changes a bit differently. Also, if somebody is younger, it looks different than somebody who's much older when they die, right? It has a lot. Yeah.
So having a death doula, then, if a loved one has a terminal diagnosis, then a death doula can prepare you for that specific passing.
Right. And hospice does do a great job. But in our society, hospice has changed a lot from when it was started in the 70s. The fact is, the nurses and the staff are lovely, and they have lots of avenues to help you, but they don't have the time that they used to. So a death doula is actually a private pay that you pay for the family pays, and it ranges different across the country. But they are actually ones that help the patient themselves make decisions. And they get to relay those. They get to kind of be the intermediate if they need to help discuss it with the family. They're very good at that. And also, they can go even deeper and reinforce what hospice has said about the disease state. This is what it's going to look like. On top of that, they can also be another person to talk to when something doesn't look right. And if somebody has no medical experience in their family, this is super important, because people are very afraid of the medications that happen at end of life, the amount of them and all of that to keep the patient comfortable. So they can also do that. And they also help the family and the patient plan the funeral. What do they want it to look like? And they stay through the funeral. And some death doulas, like myself, who's grief recovery certified, can actually help the family with grief afterwards, much longer. And hospice is usually out of the picture by then. So a death doula is more encompass of both the family and the patient.
Okay, that's good. It's like a birth doula.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you mentioned a study, and I want to bring us back to that because I took us off of that. So
that's okay. That's good. All right. Well, I geek out a little bit on studies. And the reason I do is because ultimately we need data and information to back up what we think should change or happen, right? So this study, which is really great, and I have it, and if anybody ever wants a link to it, I'd be happy to send it. But what it's really looking at is that serious illness with a diagnosis of end of life, right? And how important it is to have that conversation, right? And we're actually talking about clinicians and family members. But when a clinician has that conversation with the patient, their anxiety and depression can actually be decreased up to 50% or more.
Wow.
I know it's, again, the power of conversation. But Jenny, you know that. You talk to people all the time, and you understand that there is a power in knowledge and conversation. It just relieves a lot of fears and anxiety. So I really want to share this with you because it was a 4-year-long study. And regarding studies, you don't usually get them that long. And it also gave really great information on how to talk, how to ask those questions, actual words we can use. You know, I teach forgiveness language all the time, but I haven't really had a chance to teach end of life language, right? And it has a lot to do with asking permission, showing up where the patient is at the time. And also, this isn't just with the patient, but what about if it's a spouse and they've been married for 50 years, right? And checking in with family dynamics and all of that. So I really want to highlight this one study because it shows the importance of conversation and the power of that conversation.
Wow, I love it. We are having people say in the comments, please send me the link. So if you want the link, go ahead and just comment link or send me the link.
How about if I put it in the comments when we're done, and then I'll put the link there and people can link on there.
Awesome. Okay, I love it. I love it. And I do want to give a shout out. I think it's awesome that you guys are joining us for this conversation. So that we can talk. The more we talk, and people are saying that they shared. Halima said she shared, and Julia, thank you so much. Lynn said, oh, she told me her mom did die May 1st of 2017, so almost 2 years ago. Angie Shea is here. Hello, grief is such a personal experience. Yes, for sure. And Julia, thank you. And so anyway, we're happy to have you guys here for this conversation. And so you'll post the link for that study. It's so nice to know that there are answers, and nobody has to go through this alone for the first time.
No, and they don't. And there is a misconception in society that if we bring a casserole and we show up and we pat them and say, I'm so sorry, that it's going to be fine. Or in a year, you'll feel better, this magic 1 year mark. So there's a lot of different things that people say, but understand, and I really want to emphasize this. Yeah. When people offer words, they're saying what they really don't know how to say, right? They're trying to help you and they don't know how. And that's one of the things our society needs to really dig deep into. Understanding that when somebody is in a sad situation, telling them that will feel better in a period of time, whatever magical time that is. And each person's experience is different. You can't say that, right? It might have been your experience, but it's not going to be theirs. Also, understand that grief and that pain is actually physical. So if I can give anybody a piece of advice dealing with somebody else that has grief or is in this really deep situation, is to use words that are physical, like, oh my gosh, it just must feel like 100 pounds on your shoulders.
Okay.
And I bet it's hard to breathe right now. How sad is that? And it's such a relief because that's exactly what they're feeling. They're feeling it in their body, in every part of them. Their brains are twirling between their head and their heart. And so I really want to give that little words of advice if you're dealing with anybody who's dealing with a grief situation.
That is really good. I was just wondering that today. I have a friend whose little dog died, and I just was trying to figure out what can I say, because there's nothing we can do to help, really. And so what about listening if somebody's going through the grief?
Right. Listening is super important. If you've ever met somebody who has deep grief, it's kind of like a wire that's frayed, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of energy with grief, but it has nowhere to go. At the same time, you're exhausted. It's a very crazy type of feeling, but something that does help with that is just verbalizing it. And if you think about it, it's physically getting it out. So let them, without trying to fix it, because they're pretty smart. Most humans I've ever met know that this isn't going to get fixed. But when they get to the place of asking you, when will I feel better? Then there's stuff you can do. And please, anybody who ever wants advice on that, please get a hold of me at revmisty.com. I'd be happy to help you with that. But ultimately, listening is so important. And if it's appropriate, holding hands and hugging and just being present. Right.
So good. Julia said, great tools here, powerful. And she also brings up something that I think would be great if you'd like to address it, Misty. She said, I want to be present for my mom. She isn't terminally ill, but is 93 and slowing down. The big elephant in the room, a non-communicative family with mucho denial. Okay.
Totally, by the way, very common. Your non-communicative family is probably my non-communicative family and everybody else's. And we love denial. We do. It's a river and we live in it, because if we had to do anything, it would acknowledge the fact that we're preparing for somebody to die. And we don't want to hurt them. And the idea of them not being in this world is so very difficult. So I just want to offer that there are some good resources out there. There's some good books, and it's about starting a conversation. Now, the question is the mom, has she started the conversation? In her generation, that's really that generation that really stopped talking about it, right? World War II, all of that. They stopped talking about it, and death went to funeral homes and hospitals. So she's probably just as fearful. So the question is there somebody that you could bring in to facilitate a conversation with her? Just an average, how do you want your 90s to look? Don't say, so we're timing to see how long you're going to be here, but we want to know what you want to do with the silver. We don't want that. What we want is a conversation about how precious time is, whether you're 23 or 93, that all of that time is special. So how do you want that to look? And then also, do you have any wishes, right? By the way, if someone's 93, they've already lost many people in their life, right? They know that most people aren't 193, right? It's very rare that people live over 100 years old. So they're very aware of that. Now you have to take into accountability of who the person is, if they're comfortable with conversation at all. But it might be time to introduce somebody to help with that kind of thing.
Who would you introduce?
Well, you could get a death doula, because they're extremely helpful in just that personal conversation. And also there's lots of resources. If it's not a counselor, it all depends on the family. Also, if you're faith-based at all, your reverend, your pastor, your deacon, there's usually people within church trained in death and dying, in grief share, for example. And they are great at starting conversations.
Okay. Then we have the other extreme.
Thank you, Halima. Reverend Halima. I want you to know she's also a reverend.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Then we have the other extreme. When I was a young girl, we had a family friend. She lived in a house here, for those of you in Boise, she lived in a house that she and her husband built behind the train depot. They built it with their own hands. They had lived there forever. And my mom would take me to visit her, and she would play the organ for us, and she would make oyster stew. And when you're a kid, you don't want to be eating oyster stew.
I don't know if I could eat it as an adult, actually.
You know what? You have to be polite. So I remember taking one little. Anyway, the point being, she was ready to go. Her husband had passed on. Her kids had passed on. She was in her 80s or 90s, and she had hanging up on her door the outfit she wanted to be buried in. She was so ready to go. And as a young girl, that freaked me out. My father
did.
Yeah, my father had passed away a couple of years before, so I knew we weren't playing a game. Like this was really going to happen. And so, but so let's talk about that situation where the person who is nearing end of life is very comfortable with it, and those around them, not so much.
Right. Again, this brings us back to our beginning of the subject, right? How helping someone die can change your life. And that is by bringing the essence of importance of time, right? And that all of parts of our life are precious. And this very brilliant woman, I just want to tell you, she was pretty brilliant because she was very real about that. She was, whether she was faith-based or not, or whatever, she understood reality. And she also probably had a really good sense that she was going to see her loved ones. And that's probably her faith-based piece of it, right? And some people have that, some people don't. Some people have different versions of that, but that's not the point. The point is it's very comforting. And then also, if you have somebody around that and there's children or other family members that are comfortable or uncomfortable with that, sounds like a good time to have a conversation. Because I don't know, I've never seen a movie that, that didn't have the ups and downs. And when the heroine dies or whatever, I mean, it's not that we don't know what death is in regards to it's the end of something and that person's not here anymore. But the fact is, we need to address it in real life, not just watching a sad movie.
Right. Which brings us to what I mentioned earlier. So this is what got my attention. This is why we're on here live opening the conversation. There is an International Death Doula Day coming up on April 20th. And so tell us what that is.
So the International Death Doula Day is by doula givers, and they are all over the world, by the way, and they're where I certified. Right. And this day is been set as the day of training. It's also a great day to start having conversations. And I think that's really the point of it. So if you are a family member or somebody that you want to be better prepared for losing a loved one or helping somebody through something, this is a great class. It's literally not even half a day. And I'm also going to sneak in, if you're in Boise, I'm going to sneak in some forgiveness training in there.
Ooh.
And it's a little bonus. And also there'll be cookies and coffee. But ultimately it's talking.
You had me at coffee.
I know, for real. But it's learning how to have those tough conversations by being more informed. We are more informed about our vacations than we are our eternity.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. 100%.
We'll research our vacation I zoom in to see what the hotel looks like. But so this class is about getting more familiar. Now, if you're somebody who would like to be a death doula, if they would like their own practice as a death doula, this is the first step. So you need to attend a first step, which is a Death Doula 1 class. And we're going to talk about the 3 stages, the shock phase, the stabilization phase, and all of those. And also different disease states. Yeah.
I want to go. I'm going to go. And the reason I want to go is because, believe it or not, I'm still processing the passing of my mom. So I want to go and have more context of that moment, because like I said, it's information that you don't know you need until you need it. And then it's too late most of the time, unless you go to this class. And so, Missy, would you please come back in and post the link to that? Okay, perfect.
I will. And here's the little flyer for it. So I'll post that. It'll be the link to this, this right here. And then also, Jenny, I want to offer this to you because this is so important.
Okay.
So important. And I had to kind of reach over to get it because I didn't know I was going to bring this.
Are you going to make me cry?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I want you to know that your feelings, there's so many people who have the exact, and I'm getting teary, that have the exact same feelings of unresolved grief, right? And so this book right here, it's called The Grief Recovery. And this one's for you, Jenny. Next coffee, this is showing up.
Awesome. Thank you.
And it talks about that unresolved everything, and
Yeah.
how to work on the relationship after someone dies, and to work through loss in general. By the way, grief isn't just death. It's divorce. It's loss of a job, moving. There's so much grief in our life, and we have not learned from childhood how to deal with loss. And to leave it on the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, where we mentioned earlier, who started hospice, there's no growth without loss, and there's no loss without growth.
Wow. That is powerful stuff. So powerful. All right, Misty, thank you so much for hopping on tonight and sharing. I know we've barely scratched the surface of all the knowledge and information that you have. And thank you to all the viewers who joined us live. Thank you for sharing in this conversation. And you guys, this is a really simple, easy way to start the conversation with your friends and with your family, just by simply sharing this video, and just see if anybody comments that you know and that you want to have a conversation with, or send it in a private message, or say, hey, you know, siblings, we need to talk about this. And it's a really, right, don't you think, an easy entry? Yeah,
it is easy entry, and it will, like you said, you guys came closer together. So many people pull apart. It will help eliminate that pulling apart, and that's all fear and expectations and messy.
Messy. We want to avoid the messy.
Family's kind of messy. Let's just be honest right here.
Well, life is messy. So yeah. So if we can minimize messy, that's the hashtag. Let's minimize messy.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Misty, thank you so much.
Yeah.
What are your closing thoughts for us before we end?
My closing thoughts are: time is precious. Be in the moment with the people you love and tell them that you love them. Leave nothing unsaid. And if you have forgiveness, please work on that. If you have forgiveness issues, and remember, there is 100% mortality rate. Give your family a present and work through this for yourself.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.